Welcome back to the class, everyone. One of my favorite things about Galaxy of Heroes is that we add dozens of characters to the game every single year, and they come from a variety of places. And while there has been a lot of consistency as to which places those are over the last couple of years, every once in a while we get a character that just completely opens up new possibilities. Now, the motivation for this video will be up front right away, is obviously going to be Dark Side Rain. We'll talk about her towards the end of the video because I kind of want to go in, ooh, that was sick, in chronological order here. But basically the whole point of this video is to take some time to appreciate and look back and remember what very pivotal characters did in Galaxy of Heroes that opened up the doors for a lot of other really cool characters to come into game. And the first one that I want to draw attention to is going to be Darth Nihilus. Now, we've had Old Republic characters in game pretty much since the very beginning. I believe HK-47 himself was a launch character, so that's not really what we're drawing attention to. But we are really drawing attention to the fact that Darth Nihilus was the first Sith Lord from like the Old Republic era that came in, and that really is relevant because for any of you who have ever been on like the mainstream side of Star Wars YouTube, you probably run across a poll before where it's comparing like Darth Vitiate to Darth Maul, and you'll see that Darth Maul is winning by a landslide, and then you go into the comments to see everybody talking about like, you obviously have no idea what a Old Republic era Sith was actually capable of. And that's really what we're talking about here. I mean, Darth Nihilus himself was eating entire planets. So while characters like HK were really important from a story perspective, and quite frankly, they're just really cool, I think Darth Nihilus himself opened up a lot of gates for those really hard-hitting, powerful Sith Lords like Traya, like Sion, like Revan himself, Malak, Malgus, and so on. To the point right now where if we got a Sith Empire Galactic Legend Darth Vitiate next year or 2 years from now, most people really wouldn't be that surprised because the precedent for those types of characters in game has been here for a really long time, really ever since Darth Nihilus himself came to the game. And next up is going to be Geonosian Brute Alpha, who, when he came to the game, really was the first of his kind in the sense that he was entirely made up specifically for Galaxy of Heroes. And we have had other characters who don't really have names, who were kind of like NPC functional characters, like Jedi Knight Guardian or maybe even Coruscant Underworld Police, but for the most part, they didn't really have important roles. Geonosian Brute Alpha has had a pretty important role ever since he came into the game, being one of the key characters for the territory battle at the time, and specifically to unlock Wat Tambor, a very, again, important character for the game, or at least it was at one point. With that being said, he's kind of broken or created this precedent that they can, when needed, just make up characters. We've seen this with Sortie, when the light side droid team or non-existent team needed a leader to actually be able to become a team, and then again with Drogon or Drogan, not really sure how you pronounce it, to bolster the Leia team even more. And they can kind of do this whenever they see fit. I realize that the Drogon character didn't really go over very well because there were other options, but at the same time, I think CG wanted a little bit of flexibility of not having to have 6 or 7 Hans in game to be able to do that. So it gives them a little bit of creativity or a little bit of freedom to be creative in that space and give us even more characters on a need-by-need basis. Next up for unprecedented characters is actually going to be Mara Jade. And I will have to do a little bit of explaining here as to why she's here in the first place, because quite frankly, we have a lot of expanded universe characters. And some of those expanded universe characters, like Thrawn, actually blend into canon, and I would really argue that the Thrawn we have really is more the canon version, considering you need Phoenix to unlock him. But the reason why we're drawing attention to Mara Jade is because she kind of breaks some things, in the sense that her expanded universe character-ness directly interferes with some of the canon versions we have out there. Well, I guess they could probably work it in some way that her and Luke still got married and still had kids. It's just really weird that none of that was talked at all about during both the sequel time as well as the Mando time, when we're seeing all these interactions with Luke Skywalker. So it brings a whole, again, new precedent to the game where, hey, maybe we could actually get Han and Leia's other kids that aren't Ben Solo, Jason and Jane, I believe were their names, as well as a lot of other characters from that timeline that kind of directly interfere with things. You could argue that Starkiller even coming after her kind of fit that bill as well, because while they could obviously bring in Starkiller's character into canon, they would have to change some things because he was really influential in the start of the rebellion, and the start of the rebellion already exists in new canon, and it really doesn't have anything to do with him. So again, a lot of opportunities for Galaxy of Heroes to bring in more characters from that era, should they so choose, because Mara Jade has kind of already paved the road for them. Next up is going to be Aphra, and Aphra actually isn't from the expanded universe at all. She's only exists in the newer canon. And one of the things that she does is that she's pretty much broken it that you don't just have to be a new character from a live action film or series or from a cartoon to be able to be in game. There's a lot of literature out there in the newer canon that really hasn't been tapped into at all. And while I understand that CG wants to focus on a lot of the things that are more in people's eyesight, like the Bad Batch show that our current or our next era is going to be, or the Ahsoka show that our current era is talking about, they totally have room and precedent to go back and grab a lot of those other characters that are really cool and also from really just a literature source. Mr. Bones from the Aftermath series would actually be a really cool addition. There's Creel, there's General Carbon, the General Grievous Mon Calamari contraption. So they don't have to just keep doing what is going out in the new shows. If and when those do slow down, as well as movies, they have other material they can go and grab from, because Dr. Aphra has kind of already paved that way, along with, you know, BT, 1, 000, Sana, and kind of Black Chrysanthemum. Granted, Black Chrysanthemum actually has been in a live action now. And last but not least is going to be Dark Side Rey. And I've already made kind of a video about her and what I think her kit's going to do, so that's not really what this is going to be focused on. And it's more going to be focused on the precedent that this sets. Now, again, those of you who watched the other video already saw me rant and rave about, oh, this means Darth Jar-Jar is coming to the game. And while I think we're probably still a step away from that, considering Darth Jar-Jar doesn't even have a 2-second vision version of him, he only really exists in, well, my heart, as well as Rebuild the Galaxy, which is a non-canon Lego series. I do think there are some other characters that really kind of fit this Vision-esque thing, where they only appear for a few seconds, but at the same time, there's enough material to really build out their kits. The most glaring one to me, and it didn't come to me until a week later after I got off the Darth Jar Jar thing, was the vision, or rather the flashback of Leia we see in The Rise of Skywalker, showing her being trained as a Jedi. It just like kind of ticks all the boxes and doing exactly what Dark Side Rey is doing. It's a character that we would, you know, probably all like to have in game. I'd like to have a Jedi Leia in game. It could be Jedi Master Luke's lifter. Maybe she could go and do something else. But it really, again, we now have the precedent that they can just go and take these characters that only really appear for a few seconds, build an entire kit out of what we loved about seeing that character for those few seconds, and go from there. So it has me excited. I really like the fact that it doesn't feel like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is in a box. It feels like they had the freedom to go back and grab some really powerful characters like Darth Vitiate. They can make kind of whatever characters they need to be able to fill the holes where we don't have necessarily the right synergy. They can bring us characters that we miss and feel kind of like we're abandoned in the old canon. They can give us things outside of the movies and TV series, like from the actual literature, and then they can also just give us kind of the characters we want, despite the fact that there really isn't much to go off of. So let me know in the comments what characters out there you think were really unprecedented, or rather, what characters right now would be totally unprecedented that you would also like to see. But until next time, thanks for watching, and stay awesome.